All right, welcome to our sports podcast. Thank you for tuning in, guys. We got Ben Diaz and Roland Zamora, our main contributors. This week, of course, we're doing an NFL draft recap. We'll talk a little bit about possibility of the NBA coming back, and we got some MMA news to cover as well. First things first, we're going to open up about our week. Ben, what was your week like this past week?
What up? What up? My week was good, man. First of all, I'm happy to be back for episode 2. Uh, the most important thing to a good podcast is consistency. So as long as we stay consistent, hopefully this thing will grow. But my week was good, man. Last night we had a barbecue. Me and my wife invited my father-in-law over. Put some steaks on the grill, a little bit of salmon.
Dang.
And today just recovered from yesterday, man. So yeah, happy to be here. Happy to talk about the draft.
Me too. What about you, Roland?
Got to echo Ben's sentiment. I'm glad to be back, second week in a row. 3 makes a streak, so hopefully we get through this week and make it back for next week. But my week was pretty good. I did a little bit of traveling. I drove down to the valley to visit my mom. It's been a little while since I'd seen her. We're still practicing social distancing and everything, so don't worry. I haven't come in contact with anybody but my mom. So yeah, I just came down to see her and provide some company, and I'll be back in San Antonio tomorrow. But yeah, man, just happy the draft happened this past week. Provided us a little bit of sports to look forward to and talk about. So yeah, I'm happy about that too.
No doubt, that was the highlight of my week, man. Just a little bit of sports. It was a little heaven on earth for me. So last week we did have some comments, and I want to address a few of the comments. First off, I want to thank everybody who left a comment. And the first comment we're going to address is from Joaquin Rios. He said, Tua, Wills on the line, Ruggs, Judy McKinney, and Trayvon Diggs will put them over 5 in the first round. And I feel the safest of them all would be Diggs on an island. Can't go wrong with a lockdown corner out of Defense U. Wow, that's bold. Defense U. Well, I can't disagree. I mean, a lockdown corner, especially that he went to my team, and I like that a lot. I think I'm gonna agree with that. Roland, what's your opinion since you're a Cowboy fan about Diggs?
I'm gonna have to once again echo somebody here on the pod's sentiment as far as Trayvon Diggs being a really good player, and I'm happy that he fell to the Cowboys when he did. Just the opening up of the second round, I didn't think he was gonna fall there. And Trayvon Diggs, I mean, he has that NFL pedigree. He's the brother of Stephon Diggs. We're gonna get into it a little bit more when we talk about the draft, but definitely happy with that pick.
Me too, man. We got another one coming in from Josh Gonzalez. This one's going to be probably for Ben. When J.J. Watt gets hurt again for a week or two. Real talk, love the input y'all have towards the subjects. Great listen. What's your response, Ben?
Yeah, first of all, these are YouTube comments for everybody wondering. The YouTube page where the podcast gets posted. If you got anything to say, a little debate topic, your own opinion, put it in the comments section, man. We'll interact, we'll comment, we'll bring it up on the next podcast. And yeah, J.J. Watt being hurt, bro. It's just become tradition in Houston. We're used to it. We just hope it's the lesser amount of games. So he'll be out for a couple of games, but we address some of the needs in this draft we'll talk about later. But yeah, keep them comments coming, guys. Keep them comments coming.
All right, and we got another comment coming in from Noe. This is Noe Trevino. And he says, Denzel Mims is a sleeper pick for me. He has the size and speed. He reminds me of Anquan Bolden size-wise. Josh Allen is really underrated. I think he's going to ball out this season. He's had to deal with a lack of receivers and O-line, but with this draft, they can get one of those top receivers, even in the second round, to pair with Diggs. I know Denzel Mims, that's not a bad sleeper pick. He did pretty good in the combine, and I was looking over his stats. He had over 1,000 yards each of the 3 seasons he played at Baylor. What are y'all thoughts, Roland?
I do like Denzel Mims as a prospect. There's a lot of talk throughout the draft process about him being from Baylor, not really running a full route tree. But as you stated, Justin, and as Noe stated, he has all the vitals. He has the size and the speed to compete at the next level. And if he gets in the right system, like he got drafted by the Jets, and I think he's going to have an opportunity to go in there and compete right away for a starting job. They just lost Robbie Anderson, so there's a lot of balls to go around in that offense either way.
All right, Ben, what about you? Anything on Denzel?
Yeah. First of all, shout out Noe Bear for the comment. He had a lot to say. I agree with all his sentiments over Josh Allen. I'm behind him. I think that now with Stephon Diggs, it'll really be up to him. Let's hope that he doesn't run into that sophomore slump. Or I know it's his third year, I believe. So yeah, it's only up from here with him. Let's hope that he can just continue to build with the receivers that they have now: Cole Beasley, Stephon Diggs, the running back as well, the young running back that they drafted last year. So I agree. And as far as Mims as being a sleeper, he did get drafted by the Jets, which is a team that he'll see a lot of opportunity there early. So he'll get his chances. He'll get his game snaps as long as he's consistent. In the preseason leading up to the start of the NFL season.
The next topic we want to hit is some of the NFL Twitter talk from this week. And I got some tweets that I pulled up. I'm going to go ahead and read them out to us. Cover them right here. And this is going to be AFC South. This is going to be the Jaguars. So I know Ben might have a comment or two on this.
What's going on in the Twitter streets?
Yeah.
So we got let me get this name right. Yannick and Gauku. I can never say that name, but he started off with hashtag Free Yan, and then he tagged the owner, Khan, his son Tony Khan. He tagged him and said, "Stop hiding, Mo." Tony Khan comes back and says, "I'm not in hiding, sir. I'm in isolation, getting ready for the draft. I've been pretty active on social media in isolation, but you wouldn't know that since you unfollowed me again. Since you're feeling mighty today, let's both let the world on in the truth. We have had a discussion that the Chargers game was my last game. Yeah, you tried to backdoor the situation without answering any of my camp's calls. Shaking my head, you spoiled, brah. Holding up for no reason." Tony Khan's reply is, "It's a new regime here, sir. I thank you from the bottom of my heart for all of the contributions you made here. That said, tweeting insults at me won't get you traded any faster. Only good trade compensation will do that. Please redirect your efforts into a more productive outlet." Yannick replies, "Just trade me. I don't need the speech."
I like that.
And the last tweet after that was Tony Khan saying, "Show me the compensation. I'm sure you're really driving up the price today, by the way." Dang.
Yeah. All this is music to my ears.
That's a great exchange.
That
Right.
that is a great exchange. It's not something I normally expect to see on Twitter between a player and the Suns owner. Now, I'm not sure
Yeah,
exactly what's his role in the organization. Do y'all know?
Yeah, I
He's
think
pretty active.
he's a director of analytics, and I think he might also be like an assistant, or he might actually be the GM. So,
Yeah.
I mean, he was in the war room making the calls on draft night, so I know he's
Okay.
pretty involved. And if he's the guy to make a move for Jacksonville, I mean, if you want to make a move, he's the guy to go through. So,
Really?
yeah, I think so.
So the only thing
he's
I
the
know
owner's
about
son.
Tony Khan is from the wrestling world. He opened up a whole wrestling organization called AEW. My thing is, how's he handling both things? If he's got to be over here and over here full time, like how does that work out? I mean,
A lot of these owners, they juggle multiple plates. They keep a lot of plates spinning in the air at once. There's a couple NFL owners who own Premier League soccer teams, so it's not that
He's one of them.
There you go.
Dang.
Well,
Wow.
doesn't he own Fulham? He owns Fulham. There you go.
I think so.
Yeah, so it's not that odd to see them own multiple things. So these guys are both billionaires for a reason. So yeah, but they're not that successful, or the Jaguars at least aren't.
Right.
Haven't been lately. So
what's the last
I thought-
playoff run, Ben? You remember?
Oh, it was recent when they went to the AFC Championship, the Deflategate. Oh no, that was against
Blake
the Colts. But at Blake Bortles, when Blake Bortles had them, they made a run.
yeah, Jalen Ramsey.
Right, but hey, the most intriguing part is what Khan told him, that by these tweets and these exchanges, he's definitely not helping them out with the compensation and driving the price up, and it's going down, because once these other teams find out that these owners don't have any more leverage with the players, man, they'll like bend you over. That happened with us at Clowney. Everybody knew that Clowney wasn't happy with O'Brien. O'Brien wasn't happy with Clowney, that he was probably going to hold out. And they ended up trading him for a third and a pass rusher. You know what I mean? When you would think that off of a guy like Clowney, you'd at least get a first or second. So that's definitely not helping the Jaguars. I'm sure he doesn't care, because he's gonna cause a storm while he's there until he gets his way and gets out. But is definitely not helping the owners at all, which I'm sure he doesn't care about. So, but yeah, it's music to my ears as a Texans fan, man.
Yeah. All right. All right. The next topic is this past week's NFL Draft recap. We're going to start with favorite pick overall for the Cowboys and the favorite pick for the Texans. Cowboys first. Let's go rolling.
Favorite pick overall for the Cowboys? I mean, I'd probably have to go with the first overall pick, the number 17 pick in the first round, CeeDee Lamb. I don't think any of us talking last week thought that he was going to be there. You know, after the talks of him potentially usurping Judy as the first wide receiver taken, and who, lo and behold, is Henry Ruggs that was the first receiver taken over CeeDee Lamb and Jerry Judy. So definitely happy with the CeeDee Lamb pick. It's going to take the offense to another level. I mean, he's joining a number 5 ranked offense last year, I think, overall. So I know it's a top 5 offense. I don't know if they finished number 5, but for most of the year they were up there. So adding another weapon for Dak to use is definitely exciting. Maybe it'll motivate him to get a deal done, or motivate the team to get a deal done with Dak here in the interim before we get back to normal.
All right. Is it true he hasn't signed his franchise tender?
Yeah, he hasn't signed his franchise tender, and they've been pretty mum on whether or not he's been practicing or joining the virtual work. Mike McCarthy, I actually kind of liked what he said the other day. He came out and said that they weren't going to disclose, or they don't disclose those kind of things out to the public, whether or not somebody's coming in and participating. So kind of shooting his quarterback a little bit of bail there. Kind of like to see that.
I do. What about you, Ben? Texas best pick this year?
My favorite pick was our third round pick, actually, Jonathan Greenard out of Florida, outside linebacker. I like it because it addressed one of our needs. I like it because it's a player from one of those blue blood colleges in college football out of the SEC, Florida. He led the SEC in sacks with 9.5.
Help that pass rush.
Yeah, and with us, we definitely need to start building depth at that position, get a little stable pass rushers going. So I'm always happy to add a guy from Florida, a guy who led the SEC in sacks. I mean, it's usually positive things happen when you add those guys. So I was happy about that pick.
All right. The next topic would be our favorite individual first round pick. This could be a pick to any team that you liked in the first round that you said, hey, this is a great pick for this team. Roland, you want to go ahead?
I think we talked a lot about him last week, and I guess I'll just keep it simple. I loved the Tua pick for more than one reason. One, I just love Tua as a football player, and two, I think it was the obvious pick for the Dolphins to make, and they didn't let any of the static or the outside noise kind of distract them, or they didn't try and outsmart themselves, rather. So I definitely love the Tua Tagovailoa. I saw a bunch of different pronunciations over the weekend, so
hey, we'll get it right by the start of the season.
Yeah.
We'll get it right.
But yeah, I love the Tua pick.
I think the Dolphins, at least as far as picks went after that, they tried to get tackles and guards that would, help secure and keep us to a safe. So not bad.
They did their job.
They did the job for the most part. What about you, Ben? What was your first overall pick that you liked the most for what team?
The one that I liked the most was the Cardinals pick, because I don't think that they expected Isaiah Simmons to be there. I don't know how the Panthers passed up on him. And I love the landing spot for him with Patrick Peterson still there. He's been the subject to a lot of trade talks over the past few years, and nothing ever materialized, and he stayed in Arizona. So having somebody like that to mentor a guy like him, who's also versatile, switches around from positions, kind of like Patrick Peterson does, I think it's a real good fit. He could learn a lot, and I'm looking forward to watching him play. And going back to the Dolphins talk, I did like how they drafted offensive linemen, to help build the line for Tua. But I wish with that last pick that they had in the first round, which was a Texans pick, I wish they would have taken Swift. I think that they need a running back.
They ended up. I don't know if you noticed. Yeah, they picked up Breida. I was going to talk about that when we went to the overall draft.
I was not aware of that.
They traded for Breida. I think it was like a 5th and 6th rounder, or it might have just been.
That's good. That's not bad.
One or the other, but yeah, they got a low range pick for him, so it was pretty nice.
Yeah, and a lot of speed. So yeah, never mind. Then that addresses that need. But yeah, I like the Dolphins early round picks a lot.
Okay. Now let's talk over whose draft really did you see that was like, hey, what are y'all doing here?
I think the obvious one that everyone's been talking about, and I'm gonna have to agree because I think so myself, was the Green Bay Packers. You take a look at it just on face value. It's a 13-3 team coming into this draft. So you think, hey, let's address our needs. Let's get back at it next year. We went to the NFC Championship game. We were one game away from going to the Super Bowl. So why not just address needs and move forward? But they did the exact opposite of that, in my humble opinion. Who knows? To them, they might have addressed their needs, but drafting a project quarterback in the first round, that doesn't check off that box. And they didn't draft a receiver in the best wide receiver draft of all time, arguably. I think there was over 30 wide receivers taken in that
36.
range. I saw the number, there you go, 36, and more than a couple teams took 2. So for them not to take a receiver in the top end of the draft or the front end of the draft was just mind-boggling to me. And I can only imagine what Aaron Rodgers is thinking right now.
I think in the second round they took a running back, right?
Yeah, they took a running back for another bruiser. So
last year, your two best players on offense was quarterback and running back, and those are the first 2 picks. It's
Not only that, but it seems like they had a running back every draft. Like it was Williams, and then the other guy that was sharing time with him as well, Aaron Jones as well.
They drafted a tight end in the 3rd round. So, yeah, they didn't do what I was expecting them to do, but hey, nobody does. And the other team also that I thought, before Ben gives his opinion, was the Raiders. I thought they had kind of a weird draft, but they always kind of do their own thing.
It seemed like they were just picking up a lot of speed guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The usual for the Raiders.
Speed kills for the Raiders. What about you,
Yeah.
Ben?
Also,
Who reached?
well, back to the Packers thing real quick though. I saw a stat that popped out, and they said that since Aaron Rodgers has been drafted, they haven't drafted an offensive skill player in the first round.
Yeah.
His whole tenure in Green Bay.
I think Jordy Nelson's the highest pick that they spent on a receiver.
Well, he might have been the only one, but like now he's making it work with guys like Lazard, and they're really not giving him much for the position that they were in.
Are the Packers just like, well, he's making it work with these guys, let's just keep on doing what we're doing? But still, I thought they were going to get a weapon for him, but who knows?
For sure. Yeah, my biggest what the fuck are you doing team was the Eagles, man. The Eagles. I think that with their first pick in the first round, I think that they reached for Rager. I don't like him very much. I think that he's a lot like Nelson Aguilar. I think he's going to have catching problems. A lot of his catches, he pins the ball close to his body. I know Philly fans were pissed about it. I have a couple buddies from back in the military, Philly fans, and they were not having it, especially with a guy like Justin Jefferson there.
Yeah,
and then right after, a team who had another good draft, the Vikings, scoop up Justin Jefferson to replace who they lost in Stephon Diggs. So I thought that the Eagles messed up there, and then in the second round, instead of drafting linebacker, safety, maybe even another wide receiver, they take Jalen Hurts, who I don't think will be a quarterback in the NFL. And if you're drafting a guy like that to be in a role as Taysom Hill is with the Saints, then that's a pretty high draft pick to waste on a guy like that.
Taysom Hill on steroids is what Peterson said. He said that they're going to run that offense, but on steroids. I'm going to be very interested. What? Excuse me?
He already said that that's going to be his role. He clarified that.
Yeah. He already came out and said that they plan on running a version of what they're doing in New Orleans, but on steroids. So, or at least that was the talk coming out of that camp.
I mean, and Peterson's a very aggressive head coach, so I think that he could probably draw up a lot of things. You know how he is about going for 2-point conversions and 4th downs. He's super aggressive, and a gadget guy like that might help on those situations a lot. 4th and 2, 4th and 3, but it's a very high draft pick for a gadget player, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, I agree 100% on
with
that.
With the needs that they needed in the second round, and if they're not even going to give him the opportunity to play quarterback, or the competition, if Wentz does get hurt, is Hurts going to be the backup? Is he going to be the number 2 guy?
Yeah, I think so.
You think so, or is his role just going to be as a gadget guy?
No, I think he'll be the number 2, but they're going to use him as a gadget guy. I just think there's going to be like a 2 quarterback system. If they're saying that, if they're alluding to the Taysom Hill's offense on steroids, I mean that means that you're going to see him on the field quite a bit. So,
possibility for
I just wouldn't spend that high of draft capital on a guy like Jalen Hurts. But I mean, who knows if it's going to fit the offense that they're trying to run out there, and then to just go, I guess, into the rest of their draft, I didn't like the Jalen Rager pick just because there was a couple of other guys on the board that Ben alluded to, and Justin Jefferson and Ayuk. I think that's how you pronounce his name, from Arizona State.
Yeah,
But
he's still
you know, with some of these teams like the Eagles, they obviously they're just picking to fit their mold or their offense, and they kind of burners and Rager. So maybe he's going to be the Deshaun Jackson protege and come out there. But then they address a lot in free agency too, the Eagles. So I actually like their secondary coming back. They drafted the safety at Kevon Lawson, I think his name, out of Clemson. Still, as Ben alluded to, in the front end, a weird kind of draft, but towards the back end of the draft, I think they addressed some needs.
Yeah, they did start taking defense there, but I mean the first and second round picks, I would say, weigh a little heavier, and that's where you get more prime talent.
Yeah,
and they chose to. I mean, a receiver who I thought there was maybe 3 or 4 guys that were still on the board better than him.
And then they went after Marquise Goodwin also. I think they traded a 6-rounder.
Yeah, they did.
I thought that was pretty interesting also. So the Eagles, they're going to be competitive next year. It just depends on their health. So the NFC East, I think, is going to be between the Cowboys and the Eagles. I don't see the Giants or the Redskins competing unless either of those quarterbacks take a big jump. But I don't think either will do enough to carry their team. So.
All right, so the NFL is moving over to the 17 games. Do you think any of these people that drafted this past weekend or this past week had that in mind, as far as we need to make some adjustments for 17 games? We need to draft a certain way because of it?
I don't know necessarily for the 17 games, but I do think a lot of teams in this draft, they really looked at the depth of certain positions and they really loaded up. Like we talked about the receivers. I mean, the receivers getting drafted. The Raiders drafted, I think, 2 receivers back to back. The gentleman out of Kentucky, who's a stud, by the way, played quarterback for most of the year.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for his name to come up. I'm searching for it, but the teams just draft to their need and address depth. So I think it's going to come into play this year with the 17 games, Justin. But I don't know if that's necessarily what they were looking for this draft. So, but depth more than any other season is going to come into play this year.
I was just curious about that. What you thought about that? All right, let's address our recap from last week as far as what we called right. Roland, you called Tua under 5.5, and we cashed there for you.
Yeah, that was great. I was sweating most of the time though, because as I alluded to in the beginning of the draft talk, with the Dolphins just sticking to their guns, there's a lot of noise going on. You know, there's a lot of, hey, are they going to trade up and get a tackle? They might possibly trade down, or hey, they might actually take Justin Herbert. They haven't really said who their guy is yet. So there's a lot of stuff to be nervous about. But ultimately, they went through and drafted Tua. So that was a good little pick that we had. And I think you agreed with me on that pick. So
Yeah, I was.
I think both of us got that.
The one we were wrong about was Simmons, under 6.5. I think we had him projected with the Lions or the Giants, I believe.
Yeah, and you know, I kind of want to apologize for that one, because you know, thinking back and looking at the draft board, the only real chance that he had of going in the top 5 was to the Giants, and then towards like the draft week or maybe a little bit before, the talk became that they were going to actually address their offensive line needs. So after I heard that talk, I kind of thought that one was shot, and then ended up losing. So he got drafted by the Cardinals, but I think that's a good landing spot for him, as Ben said. I like that.
Yeah, even closer to draft week though, when I was looking on Twitter when they redid the lines, because of the offensive lineman talk to the Giants, the number had moved on Simmons to 7.5, which the Panthers were picking at 7. And they didn't expect him to get by the Panthers, and not even that one. So it still went over the new adjusted one. So yeah, man, with the draft towards very close on draft week, those last 2-3 days, it really ramps up and numbers start moving.
Yeah, the talk was crazy on Simmons.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you know, we were talking about how versatile he was last week, and you know, for most of the process, it was, hey, this guy is, you know, super versatile. You can plug him in as a safety. He plays slot corner for a lot of the time at Clemson. He can play linebacker, you know, come off the edge and rush the quarterback for you a little bit. But then as the draft process went on, and as we talked about, you know, people just nitpicking, that became, is he really great at anything? Where are we going to play him? Can we have him in coverage? Is he going to be a liability? It became kind of started taking a little negative connotation there. So glad he ended up finding a spot in the top 10. He's definitely a top 10 player. I thought he was a top 3 prospect on the overall board. So yeah, just crazy.
All right, the last one is under 5.5 for Bama players drafted in the first round. You cashed on that one as well. Want to elaborate on that one?
Yeah, that one was a pretty confident pick, at least for me, just looking at the process leading up and where guys were slotted to go. I thought they had 5 that were kind of certain, and the 5th one was Xavier McKinney, which I thought kind of shot up in the last couple of weeks in the draft talk, and I really didn't think his footing was that firm as a hey, he's going to go in the first round no matter what, because I don't even know if he was the number 1 safety flat out. I thought there's a little bit of competition between him and Winfield. So that gave me a little bit of confidence. And then Diggs also, I thought he was going to be a first rounder in the beginning, but I think the first round cornerbacks kind of separated themselves a little bit throughout the process. So that gave me confidence in that pick. So I'm glad it ended up cashing.
I think they had,
that one.
4 after all. LSU had 5 out of the first round, and Ohio State maybe 3. I think I'm not 100%.
Yeah, and shout out to LSU. They tied Ohio State 2005 football team with 14 drafted players throughout the 7-round draft. So shout out to them. They're doing a good job.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was strange to see an Alabama defensive player from their defensive backfield not go in the first round, because that's usually an automatic. So to see McKinney nor Diggs go was pretty strange. There was a late run of wide receivers there in the mid to late 20s. A bunch of wide receivers started going.
Now, did y'all pay attention to Goodell in the draft? Did you see him towards the end of the rounds just kind of slowly fading?
Yeah. He was getting more. He was getting more and more relaxed each time the camera panned to him, and it progressed throughout the weekend. I think he ended the 7th round in a T-shirt, which kudos to him. I mean, you're in your own house. I would probably be doing the same thing. But, yeah, I thought it was funny. And paying attention to his eyes, they kind of looked reddish. I didn't know what was kind of going on there half the time. But, yeah, it was fun to look at Goodell in a different setting. Yeah, it was fun to see him in a relaxed setting, for sure.
My favorite part was when he started, he was standing up, reading the draft. Before you knew it, he took a seat, and then he started leaning back on the seat. And I was like, I saw the cards upside down, and I was like, oh, this guy's just chilling now. The other thing I want to talk about through the draft was, do y'all think that ESPN was just looking for tragedies here? I mean, it seemed like every pick they kind of wanted to highlight something bad that happened in everybody's life.
Yeah, I mean, they usually like to talk about the adversities that players have gone through. And, sometimes these players have gone through tragic upbringings, and kudos to them. They've become great men, or great young men, and great young role models in the community, being able to come through that. But just to go back to your point, some of them that they were bringing up felt like they were reaching a little bit, like just to throw something out there, just a little something random, just to get you feeling a little sad. Yeah. But for the most part, I thought it was good to bring that in. You want to see something else or another aspect of the player other than just sports. But yeah, I thought they were reaching a little bit on some of those stories.
Man, that's one of my biggest pet peeves. Yo, that's the reason I stopped watching The Voice, okay? I like to hear people sing, but everything is a tragedy, bro. It gets annoying. I tell my wife, no, you can watch that and cry on your own.
Here's the thing for me, like as far as tragedy goes, it's draft night. Let's celebrate. Let's not do the tragedies this night.
Like, some things weren't even tragic. This morning, I sent a screenshot of a tweet that I found to one of our group chats, and it was T. Higgins' mom, battled back from beat drug addiction, and like, why is that a highlight point on ESPN? I don't understand that. And he said, I guess it was to clean it up. I mean, I guess he is proud, but still, that's not something that you want out publicly like that. But he said, oh, yeah, now everybody knows mom was a fighter, right? Which is good, encouraging words. But it's just tacky. You're first player to graduate high school in his family. Some of the things were just like Roland said, reaching and just looking for something tragic to get attention. It's like a very violent sport. So
it's Disney, so
Yeah.
Gotta keep that in mind too.
That might be it, Rowan. All right, so now that we have the draft, looking forward early to next year's draft, is Trevor Lawrence worth tanking for?
Yeah, I think so. I think he's probably going to be the best quarterback prospect that we've seen, maybe since Andrew Luck, or the most sought after and hyped. I don't even think he's going to have any competition for the number one spot, to be honest. But yeah, I think he's worth tanking, but it just depends on your organization. I think if you have a somewhat competitive team, you don't need to be blowing up your team to do that.
So-
if it fits, then do it.
What teams would we say are worth tanking for Trevor Lawrence? If we were going to say yes, it is worth tanking for, what teams would y'all say should do it?
Initially, off the jump, I don't know a team next season that's going to need a quarterback right away that didn't
That's
fill
true.
their position this year. Only one that
Or the Patriots.
I think is the Patriots. And then do they even have to tank? Because they got like 15 picks next year that they can just
They
trade
can load up.
and get the number one pick. I mean,
But usually for tanking, you want to look like, obviously it's going to be the lower tier level teams in the league. So as far as those teams, like we would normally say the Dolphins, right? But they just took Tua,
Tua.
right?
The
We would
Browns.
say, yeah, we would. Well,
Normally, we'd say
Browns.
the Browns.
I think the Raiders might be looking for a quarterback next year. I don't think they're married to Carr. I don't know if they'll
No,
tank,
they're
but
not
I
married
think
to Carr.
they'll be in the quarterback market, and you know how
Their
Gruden
first
used
year-
to run his Gruden quarterback camp, so he loves prospects. He loves the next quarterback, as they say.
but with their first year in Vegas, I just don't see Gruden as a tanker. But other teams, I mean, the Redskins didn't take a quarterback this year, so hey, maybe they give him the chance. It doesn't work out.
Yeah.
We suck again.
That's true.
And
That's true,
now
yeah.
they take Trevor Lawrence.
Well, it's time to go for Haskins, though. I think he's the number one guy. They're going to let him have the job. So it's time for him to prove the job or prove his worth. So if he doesn't do his job and they end up sucking again, like you're saying, I think they're another candidate for
Yeah.
Trevor Lawrence.
Another team that I could think of is the Lions if they get another Matthew Stafford injury.
The
And it's
Jaguars,
one
too.
that they already know. Yeah, the Jaguars. And they might not even tank. They might just suck.
Yep.
They might naturally be tanking. You know what I'm saying?
The natural tank.
But yeah, there's only maybe 3-4 teams that we can think of right now with their current quarterback situation and just the outlook on the league, their projection of where they're usually land.
Sure.
You know, so I would say though the Redskins, the Lions, and the Jaguars. Right now, that's what I would say.
I see. And I was gonna say the Colts at first, but then they ended up picking up Eason this draft.
He
their,
might end
their
up.
guy.
I
beat.
think they'll be decent.
He might end up with a chance, to be the starter in a year or two,
year or
because Brissett only has one more year on his deal, and they only signed Phillip Rivers for 1 year, so Eason might get a chance to go in there.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, Jacob Eason, he has a lot of potential, but I need to see more from him.
He's terrible.
So as far as Trevor Lawrence goes, does he have a higher ceiling than Tua does?
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, when you just look at him as a prospect, you look at his size, his arm strength, the way he can kind of just read and dissect a defense pretty easily. But the other thing I will say is he's always played with top end talent. Like he's played on loaded Clemson teams who are throwing out number one or round one receivers each year, or first round receivers each year, excuse me. So he's always been surrounded by talent, but then again, he's a very talented guy himself. So I need to see him play this year and like dominate college one more time just to be surely confident, because he felt a little sleepy to me
Sophomore
this
slump?
past year. Yeah, well, not so much the sophomore slump, but I mean, when you're that dominant in a team like Clemson and you're just running through guys each week, the ACC sucks. So it can get a little boring, and I think that got to him a little bit. And the week-to-week stuff can get a little mundane when you're running through people and you're just looking forward to playing Bama or whoever you're going to play in the first round of the Final Four. So I want to see him dominate a season. I say he's going to be better than Tua, but just prospect-wise, I think so. I think there's no denying it.
Of course, it's just way too early, but just fun to talk about.
Yeah, I would say he is too, for sure. I mean, and he's playing on loaded teams. Tua's team just as loaded.
Yep.
All these guys, like the top guys, are playing on the loaded teams. Aside from like Andrew Luck when he went, but even Baker when he was at Oklahoma, like they're all playing with top talent. That's why they're in the position to be those picks.
Yeah.
So yeah, Trevor Lawrence for sure. I think I would say I would even take it back before Luck, and I would say like the most hype prospect since Peyton, because I think that I have higher expectations. Obviously, easier now said than done because Luck retired so early. But I just have higher expectations for Trevor Lawrence than I did for Andrew Luck.
Man, I would hate to see him on the Patriots. That would just break my heart.
Oh, yeah.
Honestly, I like Trevor Lawrence. So I just wouldn't want to see him on the Patriots. That'd just be so sad for me.
That'd be terrible.
Speaking of the Patriots, something we talked about last week was the whole Brady and Belichick situation. This week we have some developing news with Gronk coming to the Bucs. So my question next is Brady and Gronk, they're back together. There's a lot of talent on that Tampa Bay team. Are they hype? Are they the last year's Browns, the way we thought, oh man, these guys got so much talent and they didn't perform? Or is this the real deal?
I think they're the real deal, man. I mean, to look at their draft, I think they're another team that had a good draft. They addressed, protecting Brady. They drafted some offensive linemen. They spent a first-round pick, I think, on a tackle. So they're all in on this season, and I think they're gonna do work on the field. So I think they're another team. I know we were talking about regular season totals last week, and when we get into it as we get closer to the season, I think they're another team I might add to my totals list. So just stay tuned for that. I think they're at 9.5 right now. It's kind of juiced, so I would like it at 9.5. They cash with a 10-6 record, which I think on paper is feasible.
Yeah, that sounds very doable.
Yeah.
I think that they're for real. No team with Brady on it. I'm not gonna say it's hype. The Rob Gronkowski signing, it makes sense. It's not my favorite thing. I wish that they would have I wish that they would have gone out and gotten a more prime running back, or like had taken the chance on Gurley when he was a free agent instead of bringing a guy in like Gronk. But I mean, they're just accommodating Brady. They're all in. Brady's riding the ship, and he wanted Gronk. Gronk wanted to come back. I'm more surprised at how easy the Patriots let him go. I thought that they were going to play hardball for a little bit, but they were kind of just like, okay, the draft's in a day or two. Give us the picks, take him. Let's see how it works out for y'all. So I do like the signing. Obviously, it's a positive with their chemistry. But I would have liked to seen them get a more stable running back than what they have right now with Ronald Jones. And
well, I think he had like 1,000 scrimmage yards last year, and they drafted a running back from Vanderbilt, Keyshawn Vaughn, in the 3rd round. So they did address running back a little bit. I mean, not to your
right.
Or what
When you're going all in, you just want somebody that's going to be back there pass blocking. Most importantly for Brady, and even a little dump off guy. I was looking it up, and Ronald Jones had 30 receptions last year. Now, hence Jameis Winston was throwing to him. Doesn't like checking down. He'd rather throw it up, baby. But you want to give Brady a guy who's going to understand the pass blocking scheme and also be able to sneak out and catch a little bit of dump off, since Brady's not very mobile and he's experienced enough to know, take the check down, don't force something. You know what I mean? So I would have thought that they would have wanted a more experienced back in the backfield with Brady.
All right. Now, do you think Gronk's going to start week 1? I know he's a little bit underweight right now. Probably has about 20 pounds to gain before he's at NFL weight.
Damn.
I don't know about start, but he'll play week 1, I think. I think we were talking about it this past week and, pre-production here, just about how this offseason is going to be a lot more different than any other offseason, just depending on how things, start getting up to speed. I'm just going to be real interested to see how these rookies get acclimated, because, right now, naturally, May is when minicamp starts, or towards the end of May. So if that gets pushed back, or there's no rookie minicamp or any of that kind of stuff going on, I'm just interested to see how that affects the development, and in Gronk's case, his comeback.
Yeah.
And I saw that O.J. Howard now, they were shopping him, I believe, last week. Now he has requested a trade. So
really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, I don't think it was up to him anyway, but good for him. He's playing the ball, right?
Yeah, I saw Leggett, their backup tight end, was telling Gronk that he would give him his number 87 for $1 million.
Yeah.
And somebody commented on Twitter, as they always do, saying, "Dude, they'll just cut you or trade you instead."
So
But
better get
I
a
think
10 number, boy.
yeah, that matter got resolved anyways.
They have great. They have
87.
great also. So I mean,
Connor
whether Gronk's ready to start the season or not, they'll have a good little two tight end system. If they're able to get rid of OJ Howard, if he's on the team, he won't be playing. He won't be seeing the field. But let's hope for his sake they get him out of there and he gets a chance somewhere else.
Those Bucks versus Saints games should be pretty fun this year.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of the Saints, I was going to talk about Jameis or Cam, but as of today, there's a lot of talk for Jameis being signed up with the Saints. What do you think about that?
I think that's a great signing. I'm a Jameis fan myself, just all things disclosed and out on the table. I've loved him. Or not loved him, but I've liked him since college.
You love him.
At Florida State. So I'm just going to refrain from using the word love from now on. But I've liked Jameis Winston since college. I think he has a lot of pure talent. I mean, you don't throw 5,000 yards and 30 touchdowns and suck. But I mean, the flip side of that he did throw 30 interceptions. He's like extremely unlucky, but he's also just really a bad decision maker. He puts himself in those unlucky positions or in positions to become unlucky.
He's a gambler.
I'm glad he took the deal. And I'm also glad that they started releasing that information. And I always like how they do this. They're like, he turned down a more lucrative offer elsewhere so he could learn with Sean Payton and Drew Brees. So I always like seeing those kind of headlines. But yeah, I'm happy for Jameis. I think it's going to be good for him. Who knows? He might be the next Teddy Bridgewater. He might find himself in a starting spot after sitting behind Drew Brees for 1 year.
That, or even if Brees gets hurt again, he's good to fill in the gap, knows the NFC South.
Yep.
I mean, that's a good signing for the Saints. I really believe so.
Was there specifics on what the other, like who the other offer was from, or it was just hearsay?
No, it was just hearsay, and they just made sure to put in it was more lucrative.
Okay,
So
I like it.
Not focus on the money.
I like it. I like the signing. Like Roland said, I liked Jameis in college. I remember the year that he won the national title, I was in boot camp for the Navy. They came in the next morning and told us the final score of the game the night before. So I never was able to watch it, but just saw the highlights. But I was a big Jameis fan. I still am a big Jameis fan, and I think that's
same here.
What me and Roland have been talking. We have been going back and forth talking. Where do you think he lands? We had said that we thought the Steelers, the backup role for the Steelers, because we had come to the understanding that he's just not going to be a starter this coming year.
Yeah.
As crazy as it sounds, the dude led the league in passing touchdowns, passing yards, and passing interceptions. But when teams like the Chargers are going with Tyrell Jackson and drafting these rookies, I mean, the Patriots, we don't even know what their situation is, but they wouldn't give a guy like Winston a chance who has at least proven that he can have some success in the league. I'm not saying he's super successful, but maybe in the right situation he would be. And I think this is the right situation. It's a tryout pretty much. Drew Brees signed that 1 year, $25 million deal, I believe.
Yeah.
Right? Or was it 2 years? Or was it 2 years?
I think it's.
I believe Brees was 1 year, 25, and Brady was 2 years.
Yeah.
Or Brees was 2 years, 50 was 1 year, 25. Regardless, Drew Brees is towards the latter end of his career. Last year, Teddy Bridgewater had to play a handful of starts in place of him. Like you mentioned, Justin, he's familiar with the division. It just makes sense. He had LASIK, guys. He had LASIK.
Yeah, and and it's not that surprising that he was going to get let go by the Buccaneers eventually when Bruce Arians walked in the door as the head coach. I mean, as a coach that didn't draft that quarterback, he's not your guy. You're not entitled to stick by him, especially if your job's on the line. So hopefully he gets in the right situations Ben's talking about. And I think signing with New Orleans is the first step to finding that future right situation for him.
All right, so with Jameis signed up, what does Cam fit? Do you think Cam is a good fit for the Redskins? Being that he's already been with Ron Rivera?
Naturally, I mean, I think that would make sense. Just the familiarity there, and Ron Rivera believing in Cam Newton. I mean, he experienced his MVP season, but I think the best spot still for him, or not really anymore, with Los Angeles after they drafted Justin Herbert and still have Tyrod Taylor, but is still New England. New England didn't draft a quarterback. I still don't believe in Jared Stidham. He bounced around a little bit in college. He had a good last year at Auburn, enough to get somebody to draft him in the Patriots. But I just wouldn't want him to be my week one starter, just me. But that's who they have on the depth chart right now.
Yeah. I agree. Cam's got to play somewhere, man. The Patriots makes a lot of sense. Give him the 1 year deal that everybody's getting.
Yeah, give him the 1
Give
year
him a
deal.
1 year
a
deal.
chance.
Let him prove himself. It'll be his chance to bet on himself. Have a decent season. He's got big shoes to fill if it is with the Patriots. The Redskins now with Ron Rivera does make a lot of sense. But then you got to think on the other hand, Ron Rivera was there for all the injuries, and does he know that
True.
maybe he's damaged goods?
Yeah.
Since Ron Rivera's been there, the trainers had talked to him the whole time. The new coaching staff got there, tried to catch up, see where he was, and ultimately just said, okay, we're going to cut you. So I don't think teams that maybe want to take the risk, and Cam Newton brings with him, a lot of character. So if a coach just maybe doesn't want to feel challenged like that in his locker room, doesn't think that it's worth it, I don't know. But at this point, it's not looking like the guy's going to be a starter, and he should be a starter. It looks like Jameis accepted the backup role, and Jameis is younger, has more going for him as far as the season last year compared to Cam's. So I think at this point, it's just time for Cam to accept the backup role, and maybe now go to a place like Pittsburgh, where I thought Winston made sense. Hey, maybe Cam can back up Big Ben. Big Ben's going to get hurt, man. It's inevitable. He's towards the end of his career. The guy's been contemplating retirement the last 3 years. Get Cam in there. I'm sure Mike Tomlin wouldn't mind that.
Yeah, Cam's too talented not to be on a roster. I'm sorry.
But he has to accept that bench role, and it's like Melo in the NBA, where it took him forever to accept that bench role. Honestly, though, when you're the man, bro, and you've been the franchise guy, it's hard. And I think that's what we're seeing over here. But if Cam wants to stay in the NFL, I think he's going to be forced to accept that role.
Yeah, I don't know. Especially, we talked about the Patriots and their quarterback situation, and even the Jaguars. Like I would have rather have him over Minshew. I'm just talking what my preference is. Minshew's a good quarterback, but if you have a chance to get in Cam for 1 year and you have a pretty decent squad already, why not give him the chance? But who knows? I don't know. I wouldn't. If I were him, maybe it's being selfish, but I wouldn't be a backup, especially when there's spots that you can be a starter at. Jameis is a little bit different, I think, because just of the negative connotation around his name with all of his interceptions and stuff. But Cam has really just been his injuries, and if he's healthy, why not give him a chance to play for you? So
it just seems like since that Super Bowl loss, there hasn't been any positive stuff attached to Cam Newton's name since that Super Bowl.
Come in and compete. At least let him come in and compete.
I agree. But, yeah. Does he risk not playing in the league? Like you said, he shouldn't accept a second string role. It would be a lot easier for him to get a second stint if he accepted the second string role than sitting out a year and then hoping that a team's going to gamble on you the following year after almost 2 full seasons off because of his injury this previous season. So that's going to be interesting.
I hope teams
develops over the summer.
I hope teams would look at him as a backup too, because for a while, when all the talk lately has been about Jameis, because he's the one actually getting signed. But before they were saying that, will Jameis accept a backup role? We don't know if he has the mindset to do it. Do teams actually believe that Cam has the mindset to do it? So I don't know. It's a really interesting situation, especially for a guy so talented to not be signed with the team right now. I don't know.
Yeah.
All right, now let's move over to the defensive side of the ball as far as free agency goes. Roland, what's going on with Jadeveon Clowney?
Oh, man, it's an interesting situation. I think Ben has a little bit more insight than I do, but just, my take on it, it's just, betting on yourself gone wrong. I think you had a team that was kind of willing to kind of re-sign you, but he wanted to test the open market instead, and he set an asking price in the $20 million asking range or in that range, and it's kind of backfired on him. And he's actually had to his camp has publicly reduced his price or his price tag. So it's a big blow, I think, to your camp strategy when it backfires like that. But that's just the way the free agent market works sometimes for some guys. But Clowney has never, to me, been as productive as his talent has suggested he could be. I think he's had a couple of good seasons here and there, especially with the Texans, but he was in a great situation with the Texans. I loved that Texans defense when he was there. I'm sure Ben did too. But when he was there opposite of Clowney, man, that was fun to watch. And he thrived in that situation. So I don't know. I think it backfired on him. And teams aren't willing to pay him that $20 million. And he found that out the hard way.
Yeah. So in 2018, when Clowney was with the Texans, he finished the 2018 season playing on the opposite end of J.J. Watt. He finished with 9.5 sacks. And then the contract negotiations were starting because he was about to be up. So he said he was going to hold out or not sign the franchise tenure prior to this past season, 2019. So we had no leverage. O'Brien had no leverage. He didn't want to pay Clowney. Clowney didn't want Khalil Mack money, but he wanted under that. Like, he didn't want the 120, 130, but he wanted to surpass 100 to 110, right? And the Texans didn't want to pay him that. So then we lost all the leverage. The Seahawks traded us a third-round pick and Martin, another outside linebacker for him. So Clowney with us would play standing up. He'd play over the nose tackle. He got traded to the Seahawks, who play a different style of defense, and now his hand's on the ground and he's rushing off the edge primarily, which is kind of what you think you'd want with Clowney, right? But now he doesn't have J.J. Watt on the other side of him, so he's the man now, right? And the Seahawks didn't have to give up much assets. They were going to see what he gave him that 1 year and then decide whether they wanted to pay him or not, right? So Clowney ends this past season with 3.5 sacks. Now, I know that he did have a fumble recovery for a touchdown, and I believe an interception for a touchdown also, but only 3.5 sacks. And as a pass rusher, 3.5 sacks is not going to get you your $20 million a year, man. So when Roland says that now he's even asked to lower the price of what they primarily had, what the Texans didn't want to pay him, and now what the Seahawks, who had him on a rental, didn't want to pay him. So today I saw on Bleacher Report that now it has the Cleveland Browns as a favorite to sign Jadeveon Clowney.
Did it have the contract
That
numbers?
makes sense. Of course, the Cleveland Browns are going to sign him.
Yeah, I didn't have contract numbers, but then again, you see him in that situation playing opposite of a guy like Myles Garrett, and maybe the numbers could go up again. But the Seahawks, though, man, they've been so stagnant. Like, it seems like this is the signing of the summer for them, and it's kind of held back most of the other things. Aside from that, they've signed Philip Dorsett, that speedy receiver out of the Patriots. But it seems like the whole Seahawks offseason has been relying on this Jadeveon Clowney situation and how much he's going to get paid. I had Russell Wilson saying, "Hey, Clowney, come on, man, we need you. We want to win the Super Bowl." He's publicly, tried to encourage Clowney to get a deal done. But now today I read that the Browns are the favorite to sign him. So we'll see how that goes. It sucks that Clowney bet on himself and he didn't get what he thought he was worth.
Yeah.
As a Texans fan, I'm kind of glad that we didn't pay him, even though I liked what he did contribution-wise on our team. Maybe he didn't have those double-digit sacks, but he was always top 3 in tackles for loss. He plays the run really well. But if you want to get paid that type of money, you need to get to the quarterback.
Yeah. He's never had over 10 sacks in a season. So
9.5 was his high in 2018.
Yeah, that's not $20 million a year.
For sure.
I mean, betting on yourself again is good, but that's why you also have people in your camp. Unless it was his camp too that was leading him to do that, but someone's got to just tell him and be like, "Hey, man, just take what's out." But then again, it's somebody's money. You can never tell somebody to do that. I would never do that either. So, never mind.
He has a veteran agent because they were playing like really hardball with the Texans back when we had a real general manager and not a head coach / general manager. So I know that agent's an OG. Yeah, so backfire. Times have changed, buddy. Times have changed.
Yeah. All right, well, that's it for NFL talk. Let's move on. I'm going to just talk about some MMA right now. This week, the PFL, they announced that they're going to close the league for the year. But what they are going to do is offer compensation for fighters during the meantime. What do you think about that? While the UFC is trying to create all these events, especially I think 3 this next coming week, what do you think about an organization like the PFL saying, "Hey, we're just going to close up shop"?
I think it's smart. I mean, It's close up shop instead of trying to run shop and go bankrupt. Just close up shop, man. I mean, they have good sponsors behind them. They give everybody that wins their tournament in the division $1 million for the tournament winners. For people that don't know what the PFL is, it's a professional fighting league. It's a league like the UFC, like Bellator, just a branch further down. But you see UFC and Bellator fighters now leaving these bigger companies to go to the PFL because of that guaranteed $1 million prize for winning their tournaments. So PFL has a good thing going. I think fighters are going to want to fight there regardless, as long as the prize is $1 million. If you know that you can't operate right now, or it's beyond your means because this is only the second year that you've been running as a company, you're not as established as a UFC. It's not like Bellator is running events, and Bellator is the one right under the UFC. So I think it's smart for PFL to do it. Once things can resume, later down the line, obviously they're not being as pushy as Dana White is, but later on down the line when things can resume, maybe they need fans in the stands in order to make money. I'm not sure how it works, but with as many sponsors that they have sponsoring those $1 million grand prizes, you got to take a lot into effect advertising wise and all that. So I think it's a good move for the PFL. Don't force it. Don't run yourselves straight to bankruptcy. Yeah.
What about you, Roland? You got any opinion on the PFL closing up?
I think it's smart. A lot of Ben's points are very good, and as far as why are you going to keep on going when you're not the top division? I think it kind of makes sense for the UFC to keep going because they have that firm footing in the market, and they're going to put on shows people are going to watch. The PFL, they might try and put on a show and it might bust, and they might waste a lot of money trying to do that. And a lot of these events, they are really dependent on the gate and what brings in the gate. That's all. At least in boxing, the gate is really important as far as the splits are concerned and the actual ending pot. So, as far as the PFL and what they did, I'm a big fan of it. And they said they're still going to be paying their people, so I think that's even more impressive. Unlike the XFL don't want to go back to football, but the XFL just shut down and said, "Hey guys, we're done." So at least the PFL, at least they're still going to be going. So kudos to them. And I think they get broadcasted on ESPN, so they're not like some rinky dink little thing. They're legit, and
they're not going anywhere. They just gotta wait it out.
Exactly. I think it's pretty smart.
And they had a big signing with Rory McDonald's going over. So
right,
that's big time. That's big time.
As far as name notoriety, obviously he's towards the end of his career, but
sure.
with the competition that's there, you want that name, and he'll give you a run. He'll grab some viewers, but yeah, don't force it. Good move.
All right. The next thing is this week there was a lot of talk between Israel Adesanya and Tyron Woodley. Tyron Woodley, do you think he can move up to middleweight and be successful, or is he just a little too short?
I don't even want to talk about Israel Adesanya. That guy's just honestly, to me, lately, I liked him when he came out. Don't get me wrong, but he just seems like a big attention grab, kind of like clout chaser. I mean, that's the name of the game. You're supposed to draw as many followers to your accounts as possible and many people to watch your videos as possible and buy your fights. But just any little thing that has been out there, he's tried to kind of insert his name in there, and it's kind of annoying. I don't know who engaged this or who started this. Somebody needs to tell me who started this.
Was it Adesanya
Woodley?
Or something? Okay,
so was he making fun of Woodley rapping or something? I don't know, but just to answer the question, I think Woodley can. I think it'd be better maybe at a catch weight or something, maybe not an official fight, but I would like to see those guys scrap. I think it'd be pretty interesting. Adesanya struggles with power, man. He's going to get caught.
Roland, but can Woodley rap?
What's that? I haven't really listened to any of his music. I've played maybe a video in the background just to give him a YouTube view, just out of support because I'm a fan. But I haven't listened to too much of his stuff.
Yeah, I'm not a Woodley fan at all. I'm not a Woodley fan at all. I think he was a terrible champion when he was a champion, and now I think that he's just trying to do whatever he can to get the quickest shot at a title, because in his division he's pretty far back in the line.
Yeah.
It's a travesty he never got a rematch.
It is a travesty he never got a rematch, but with the performance that he put on, it's not like he deserved it.
I'll give you that. I know You're not going to.
Based on
But
his
he
defense.
had a lot of title defenses. Why not give him a
No,
rematch
yeah,
based on
I
that
was
then?
getting there. I was getting there.
Okay,
Based on the
okay.
defenses, he has defended the belt a lot. But we do see these people get their automatic rematches when the fights are at least competitive.
Yeah, but he's a very underrated champion. I honestly have to throw that out there just because of the defenses that he had and the division that he's in and who he had to take out to get there.
His problem is he tried playing like hardball and Conor McGregor. Like he tried thinking Conor McGregor of his division because he was the champ.
Yeah.
So he tried shot calling and it didn't. Dana didn't like it. It didn't work out.
Yeah, he's not one of Dana's guys.
Yeah, he's not one of Dana's guys. I think they're both clout chasers, Adesanya and Woodley. I think Woodley and Covington stuff was all smoke. I think if Woodley really wanted to fight, they could have booked the fight against Burns if he really wanted to fight.
Again, all disclosure again, with Jameis, I'm a big Woodley fan, so I'm going to defend him here. I mean, he clearly said he wasn't going to fight anybody that was looking for a come up or anybody that was lower ranked. I mean, it was either going to be kind of level or it's going to be a banger like with Colby, who's even ranked or maybe ranked higher than he is right now. So, the Burns thing, I mean, I think they ended up said that they're going to try and do it, but that one fell through or whatever. But I wouldn't have done that if I were Woodley. It's just too risky.
Yeah, I'm just ready to see Woodley back in the fight. It's been too long for me. I'm a good fan of Woodley too. So now we got UFC 249 coming up. We're not going to discuss the card this week because we'll go over that thoroughly next week. But now we do have a location for UFC 249. The last time we had a location for the UFC, it got canceled.
Send location.
What do y'all think this time around? Now that it's in Florida, do we see it?
I think it's a go. It's a go.
Send location.
Florida people, I told you about Florida, man. Florida's
I know
wild.
what I was talking about now. I know what you're getting at.
Florida people are wild. Florida's wild, and this is happening. WrestleMania happened there, and I think once that happened, they said, "Hey, entertainment is essential here in Florida. UFC, come on over," and the UFC took their invite. Now we have 3 fight cards in 8 days.
I like the chances. I do, especially in Florida. Like you mentioned, WrestleMania happened. And WWE has carried on a few more events. They were taping their events. Now they even have live events going on. No people, of course, but live events. So it's some affirmation for me that this is going to happen. I feel like it will.
They wouldn't announce 3 cards in an 8-day span if it wasn't going to happen, and they're all going to be in the same state. So
yes,
yeah, and you got to think about the stop and go for the fighters. Like these guys, they're in camps, they're training, and just to be like, hey guys, we're fighting, and then stopping all of a sudden, what that does to your body, I'm sure that's not beneficial. But I was going to say, I don't want to get too much into it, but I'm really surprised that WWE would want to continue on without fans. I guess they have a really good footing in the internet in terms of streaming and whatnot, so people are going to watch regardless. But as far as the fighters, I think them more so than the UFC guys go off of the crowd reactions. I mean,
they do, but I think they got to honor those TV deals, so that's probably what they're trying to do.
Yeah, it makes more sense for UFC fighters because they can now hear their corners. Yeah. But for WWE, it doesn't make sense. I'm sure fighters might not get as jacked not seeing the crowd. But from a strategic standpoint, I'm sure no crowd benefits the fighters.
Let's just turn Florida into Sports Island instead
Sports
of
Island. Maybe.
Just turn Florida into Sports Island. Have football there. Rotate the couple of cities like Tallahassee, Orlando, Miami. All those cities have stadiums.
Hey, Kimbo was in Florida, man. Kimbo started backyard fighting in Florida.
I solved the sports problems. Sports
just
Island.
Like that.
I like that.
The next event that was announced is May 13th. Just to go over the main event, Anthony Smith versus Glover Teixeira. Who do y'all got? And do you like this event for either fighter?
Yeah, I think that Anthony Smith is going to win. I know Smith is coming off beating Alexander Gustafsson in his last fight.
And Home Invader.
And the Home Invader.
Yeah, he beat up a couple weeks ago. For the people that don't know, Anthony Smith had somebody break into his house, like a home invasion, and he beat him up. He beat the dude up.
John Jones wasn't impressed.
Yeah, John Jones said the guy wouldn't have lived, but
my boy Jones, man, crazy guy.
Yeah. So Smith is coming off a Gustafsson win, and he went and beat Gustafsson in his home country also. So So Lionheart has a little bit of momentum. If he wins this fight, I mean, he's back in the title picture because there's not much competition, ahead of him. There's not many guys ranked ahead of him. And Glover Teixeira won a split against Nikita Krylov. Nikita Krylov's like a middle of the pack guy, nothing crazy. But Glover Teixeira continues to surprise, man. He's old, but he's an OG and he finds a way. He'll go win one, lose one. He's won 2 in a row.
Yeah.
So it'll be a good fight. I like the matchup. I think that Anthony Smith is gonna KO him.
Oh yeah.
Before the second round ends, for sure. So.
Yeah, I'm on Anthony Smith on this one too. Glover Teixeira, in order to inflict damage, he has to take damage. That's just kind of the way his fighting style is. So I think that's going to play to Lionheart's advantage. And I think Lionheart, like Ben said, he's a victory away from, getting back in the title shot. I don't know if it's going to be immediate, after this victory. I think he's going to have to end up fighting, a Dominic Reyes or who's the Polish
Thiago Santos,
Thiago Santos, or
John Blachowicz. Yeah,
Blachowicz. There you go. So I mean, it's going to create like a little round robin situation in terms of who's going to get to fight John Bones Jones next. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. I like Anthony Smith. I like that matchup too. It should be exciting and end a knockout, like Ben's saying.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's it for MMA talk. Let's go ahead and move on with NBA. There's some possibilities of it coming back.
The other MMA event that got added though, the May 16th.
We'll talk about that next week since it's we'll be able to cover that next week.
Okay. All right. Sounds good.
So NBA possibly coming back. I know Roland had mentioned that LeBron was pushing for a comeback in an interview, and he even said something about a bubble idea. Roland, can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Yeah, well, a lot of this NBA talk just sprung out, I think, a couple of days ago when the draft was going on. They announced that they're going to open up facilities for teams in cities that aren't as badly affected by COVID-19 right now. So that leaves it open that there might potentially be some closure to this year's season, which LeBron James has been caping for like really hard, which, I mean, I agree, or when I put myself in his shoes, I get where he's coming from because this is his best chance at winning a title. I don't think if they don't have this season or the season goes on or whatever, this represents his best chance at ever winning a title again. So it behooves him to, throw around his weight and try and get this thing started again. I know he came out in an interview and said that he wouldn't have any closure to this season if there was no finish to the playoffs, that he would just not be able to essentially live with himself and he would never be able to forget about this or whatever. But rightfully so from his perspective, because again, if we were to come back next year after the restart and say, hey, nothing happened this year, and you come back next year, the league is full go again. Yeah. I mean, you got the Bucks who are still the Bucks. You got the Warriors who are going to be the Warriors again. KD is back, who the last time that they saw each other owned LeBron. Let's not forget that. I still think people are forgetting that because of the injury and kind of how the Golden State thing fizzled out. But KD owned LeBron in the finals when they played. So he's going to be back. So I think he really wants this season to come back and finish itself out so he can have a run at a title again. And I think they should still be the favorites if they came back this year and resumed the season where they were at. Or some iteration of that, like a 3 or 4 game finish to the season, and then you go into the playoffs or something like that. I think they would be the favorites.
The man is desperate. The man is desperate. LeBron's desperate, man. He went and got the hair plugs for this year because it was the year.
Yeah,
he's
not going to let. He doesn't want COVID to stop him.
Listen, bro, this is the worst thing for Lakers fans, LeBron fans. I used to be a LeBron fan. He put on purple and gold. I'm no longer a LeBron fan. That's the only reason I'm not a LeBron fan. But it's the only people who are affected by the NBA season not continuing. I mean, obviously, we're all affected, but the team that it affects most is 2, in my opinion. Obviously, the Lakers because of LeBron's age and the chemistry and the way they were rolling. And another one that might be a little bit of a hot take, but I think it affects the Bucks. There's been a lot of buildup and little hints. Giannis in a Zoom meeting with the Warriors and Steve Kerr. And
Cringe.
the Bucks need to get to a finals, man. If the Bucks don't get to a finals before it's time for Giannis' contract to come up, if he doesn't at least see the finals, know that the finals runs through the Bucks, at least get that assurance, I think that we could see him dipping out.
This is their year to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, both them and the Lakers, and which is what most people had as their finals. Not me, but most people had as their finals matchup was the Bucks against the Lakers. I think that it's huge for both of those teams. Unfortunately, they were both in really good position before this happened. So I think that they're both going to be lobbying for the season to continue, and it might continue. They're talking about cities opening up now also, which I think that we're going to cover a bit. Some cities can't open up. Like, how are you going to get extra work, but these teams can't get work? It's complicated, man. The way I see it, I see them just calling the year and starting the other season on time. But those are my thoughts on it. But it definitely affects the Lakers, LeBron, Lakers fans, all of you, because all of you are Lakers.
Yeah, and I mean they're not going to win if the season gets canceled. They won't win again.
You don't get the trophy because you have the best record, guys.
And also,
it will now be an 8-year drought in the playoffs.
A lot of their role players are kind of on short-term deals. So really, and Anthony Davis, I don't even think has a solidified deal. So you could potentially, have done all that you could to bring him over to LA, and then lose him because you don't win a title, which I think is very far-fetched, but it's a possibility just because of the way his contract.
I know it's far-fetched that they lose him too, but I like trolling some of my buddies and family members in the Lakers.
Well, here's the thing. I stay on Laker Twitter, right?
And Anthony Davis put his house up for sale.
And this week there was a picture that he had put up his house for sale. And
maybe he wants to go back to Chicago.
At the All-Star break, he talked about maybe going home.
He's a Chicago kid. Yeah.
Everything just seems too sweet right now with the Lakers for him to leave. Like, it obviously doesn't make sense, but these signs are little, question marks, if I will say.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Well, I mean, that's it for NBA talk as far as that goes. I know we'll have a lot more once the season either restarts or closes. Just as far as last week goes, we did say we were going to watch The Last Dance. Were y'all able to watch it?
Yeah, no, I did. I watched both episodes when they came out. I was really just impressed with the job that ESPN did, just considering the fact that, everybody just leading up to it was kind of just saying that they weren't going to see anything that they hadn't seen before. But I saw a couple of things that I wasn't privy to because, as I alluded to last week, I was a kid when most of this stuff was going on. So I didn't know about a lot of the strife and the personal drama. I don't remember the Jordan press conference. Him saying after they won the finals, just pretty much like defending or making a case to come back the next year and saying, hey, we have the right to defend this until we lose it. So I had no idea that the situation was that dire between the team and Jerry Krause, the general manager. So definitely liked what I saw last week, and I'm even more excited for what's going to come out this week with the focus being on Dennis Rodman and the Bad Boys.
Yeah, that's going to be good. What about you, Ben? What's your biggest takeaway from the first 2 episodes?
My biggest takeaway, and it was mind-blowing, was how this GM could be so smart. I don't want to call him a genius because the second part of this is obviously the bad part, but it could be so smart to put that team together, add guys like Rodman, add guys like who coach all those guys, and then be the same guy to screw it all up,
Yeah.
Just pretty much off of ego, it seemed like, right?
Yeah, they alluded to him having kind of like that, the short man syndrome or the Napoleon syndrome, just, kind of just always just striving and looking for credit. And, that's just the stuff that blows up organizations, and that's the stuff that prevents you from winning further. I mean, how could you want more credit than Michael Jordan? It seemed like he was looking to be the one that was praised for the titles, but as the guys were saying, the players are the ones that put the ball in the hoop. I mean, come on.
Yeah, that was my biggest takeaway, was how the dude could put that team together, for both of the runs, and then also be the same person that was the demise of the team.
Definitely. Did y'all happen to see that they actually leaked the first 8 episodes?
Yeah, I did. I heard
Yeah, I
about it.
saw that. I
I
haven't
think
watched them though. I'm saying true.
Me too.
I think that they might actually be out on the ESPN app already too, available to watch. The 3 and 4 only. The ones that are dropping today, I think on the app.
Oh,
You know,
really?
like in Power would come out
Yeah.
Sundays and they drop them on the app
Yeah.
Saturday night.
I might pull that up right now then
I
after
I
we're done
believe-
recording.
Yeah, a coworker showed me. He's like, "Hey, look, these are up on the app already."
Yeah, man. All right, y'all got any last comments?
No, I'm just, like I said in the beginning, and like I think Ben said too, just glad to be back for a second week. Hopefully, we can make it to another week next week, and hopefully we get some more sports to talk about as cities start to open up, albeit safely. But I'm just waiting for sports. I'm jumping at the bit to talk about more sports. So
Yeah, me too.
come back, please.
That's what I'm hoping for. Hopefully, we have enough content to talk about next week.
Yeah.
There's no draft or anything coming up, but
We got fights, man. We got fights.
We got
The fights
fights
are
to
13
talk about.
days away. So next Sunday when we record, the fights will be 6 days away.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's awesome being back, man. Thank you for everybody who watched, shared it on social
Definitely,
media,
yeah.
and even
Thank you.
subscribe to the channel. Hey, if y'all disagree with us, we don't know it all. Our takes
Yeah.
might be wrong. Let us know about it in the comments. We'll hash it out.
yeah. Well, thank everybody for tuning in. Like Ben said, leave a comment. It's the best thing to interact with you guys, and it's fun. We
Oh.
want y'all to be a part of it too. So
I do want to say one thing, Justin. You were right. There was somebody that was suited in the NFL draft. Just one last thing before
Tua.
we part. Tua was suited.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was somebody in the suit.
there you go.
Just want to throw that
Hey,
out there.
next week we'll be back with a podcast name too.
Yeah, that too. We'll have a podcast name, an official name. We're just thinking it through, and we'll probably have some guests eventually. I think the best time to have guests is once sports actually do start rolling in and happening, so we could have guests. Other than that, I mean, to have a guest right now would be a little bit off.
We'll have guests on to do picks and like keep track of picks of guests.
So
Yeah.
y'all look forward to that, man.
Yeah.
All right. See you guys next week.
Deuces.